Welcome to Podnutz Computer Repair Podcast, episode 146. I'm your host, Jeff Halash. This is our live call-in show for computer repair techs. We bring you tips and ideas for your IT business. The call-in number is 1-888-697-0162. Let me introduce the co-hosts. We have Chris Carruthers from the Remote Support Tech team. How you doing, Chris?
You know what? Getting lots of fresh air this weekend. Jeff, how about you?
Yeah, I got my window open and the air conditioning off. It's beautiful outside.
It's nice, right? Getting the stream going through.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm reading stream. Breeze. That was the word I was looking for. Thanks, Mason.
Oh, I thought you maybe had a stream going through your backyard.
Yeah, why would I want that to go through my window, Jeff?
Well, I don't know. Maybe get wet while you're podcasting.
Whatever. I don't know. We're just going to blame Mason for this and move on.
There we go. Hey, also joining us a little bit later, he's having some technical difficulties. We'll probably have Jay Parker, and he'll be joining us here shortly as soon as he gets his stuff going. So anyways, let's take care of a little housekeeping. We have Jetpack Live Show number 6 is Monday, October 5th at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Learn real ways to grow your IT business. You can check it out over at itjetpack.com. All right, Chris, what's been going on in your business?
Well, we've been doing some testing with the mobile device management, which is super exciting because my kids now know that I know every YouTube video. No, I'm kidding. No, we've been playing around with the parental control features on it, and I've heard the anguished screams of a 12-year-old that can't get Minecraft videos on YouTube because the rating isn't set up properly. So it's been great. Other than that, we've just we're winding down summer. It's nice and cool outside. So really, the times that I've been able to get out of the office, I've been trying to get the kids out to the park and do some last days of fun before we're stuck inside for the winter. Gotcha.
All right, cool. Very cool. And Jay, can you hear us?
Yeah, I think I'm finally with you.
Okay, Zinga.
We've got Jay Parker with us with the shaky cam.
Yeah. So, here's the deal. For some reason, the front-facing camera, I cannot change the default off the rear. So, can you guys see me okay?
We can see you perfect. Yep.
Good. I'm blind. So, if viewers see me, they might wish they were too. So.
Well, did you put it in tent mode so you could use a front-facing camera, or?
No, I'm just using the rear. So I'm listening to you guys, but I can't see anything here. It won't flip around.
Gotcha.
It's stuck on the default. So.
No big deal. So Jay,
since we're in the middle of the show here, and I'm kind of looking like an idiot, I'm just going to do with the best I can here.
Yeah, you're perfectly fine. All right. So I was going to say, what types of things have you been doing for your business, and what is it you exactly? I know we talked a couple weeks ago about what you're doing, and you've got some new ideas. So you want to let people know kind of what you're moving forward with right now.
Yes, I'm going back towards. I had kind of kicked around the idea of doing a partnership thing with other service providers, and the feedback on that was pretty light. So I had spoke with some people, and they kind of sounded all for it. And then when I actually, when it came down to brass tacks, they kind of shied away on me. So I've kind of decided to go back to more of a break-fix model. I'm working on putting together a new platform right now. Not really making any official announcements, but I'm looking at probably TechMate for the name. And then basically what I'm looking to do is I'm really researching hard right now, going with Amazon's home service platform for lead generation, for customer lead generation.
Okay.
And exploring that avenue. In terms of the services I'll be offering, it'll be a little bit of traditional break-fix stuff, but I'm looking to kind of put together some service packages where it's kind of like a off-the-shelf service where people can, one thing I really like doing is PC maintenance. I did some scripting for maintaining PCs and stuff like that, so I'm looking at a way of kind of packaging that up to where I can kind of sell that as a package to consumers.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are starting to do that type of thing now, is figure out something. I know Chris does that in his business with managed services, with a lot of his customers. So it's definitely something is needed out there and works. And Chris, most of your customers are residential, correct?
Yeah, I actually pulled the percentages on that. We're at an 85% residential for
Wow.
our managed service plan across the
Okay.
board. Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. So it's
Do you
definitely
like that model, Chris?
I'm sorry?
Do you like that model as far as residential stuff goes, pure residential?
I don't care. Whoever's going to buy it. What I find is that dollar for dollar, and minute for minute, residential tends to make more money than business does when it comes to a service plan like the one that we have on our white label. And it just comes down to the fact that we've automated so much and we've tightened things up so much that they don't really get reinfected and we don't have to do much with it. Whereas a business client will be more likely to want specific sites blocked, and they're going to want us to make exceptions. Like, I don't want my employees to go on any social media sites, but this computer needs to be able to go on Facebook and Twitter because they do our social media stuff. So yeah, I love residential because they just get their kids to infect their systems and then call in to get us to fix it.
For sure.
That's great. All right, very cool. Well, as far as in my business, over this last week, I had I actually shut my advertising off.
What?
Yeah, I shut my advertising off for the last month. And part of the reason is, I kind of explained it last week, I'm going through all my keywords and moving some stuff around and kind of cutting it down a little bit to things that are going to work better for me, where I'm not wasting a lot of money. And not that I was wasting money before, but there were some things that were getting clicked on that I wasn't getting any calls anymore, so I had to make some adjustments and pull some stuff out. But believe it or not, because of my natural organic SEO, of which I've used nobody for SEO, I come up as, actually, for a lot of search terms, I come up #1 organically, and if not, there's a lot of other search terms that I come up second. Oh. I come up for the second in the organic search. So yeah, it seems to work out pretty good there. So as far as with all that kind of stuff, what I've been doing is I actually got a call out to a business that had a couple computer problems, and they normally have somebody that works on their stuff. But what they do is they do a charity. And I wasn't sure exactly what charity they were doing. But anyways, I went in, and they had a computer that was crashing. And I was working on the computer, kind of checking it out. I did, real quick, threw D72 in there, ran Crystal Disk, checked out the hard drive. Everything seemed fine there. So we're going through all these things, and he's explaining to me, the beep codes. It's a Dell machine, and he's saying that there's 3 beep codes. And I'm like, okay. Well, that usually means motherboard on most Dell machines. And so we're going through all these things, and it's running, and it's just this weird random time that it'll shut off. So I'm going and running all my software tools, and what I should have done right from the beginning, which I normally do with every machine that comes in, it's just because he was throwing so many different things that were happening with this machine, I didn't think about it. I should have ran the Dell Diagnostics, and that would have saved me a lot of time. Because what ended up happening was I found out there was a bad memory module. And basically, 2 sticks of RAM in there, I pulled one out, machine wouldn't even boot up. And the actual beep code was actually 4, which is for Dell's memory. And, I hadn't heard it because it hadn't crashed yet. So when I went and ran the Dell Diagnostics, the other thing was that they'd replaced the CPU fan on this particular machine. And because they replaced it, I don't know where they got the fan from. I don't think it was an OEM fan. I'm not 100% sure, but the Dell BIOS was not reading it correctly. So on the Dell Diagnostics, it was getting a fail even though the machine was running, but it's not going to cause any issues because the fan's running and the 4-pin connector is connected to the motherboard, so it's not a big deal. So anyways, yeah, that was one machine. And another machine, I guess, was there were several machines that were getting kicked off the network, and they weren't matching up. That particular workstation wasn't matching up with the domain controller on the server, and they're still using server 2003. And so I went in. I haven't really touched the server in probably about 4 years. And so I went in Active Directory, looked at everything. Everything looked fine. So basically, or no, I'm sorry. Let me step back. There was a problem with this. All of a sudden, he had this problem. He unplugged the machine. He plugged everything back in, went to start it up, and it just came up with an error. It said SATA controller red, and then stopped. And so you got this black screen. And so I went in and I'm looking at it, trying to figure out what's going on. What ended up happening was Secure Boot had somehow, nobody knows how, got turned off. So when Secure Boot got turned off, it's not going to boot into a system even though it's showing that everything's okay on that machine. And so once I turned Secure Boot back on, it launched right in there. And so I basically got around the domain controller by unplugging the network cable, and I basically went in and logged in using the password. It logged in, I reconnected the cable, and then they have another service that they were using that was going to be able to log in and go ahead and fix the rest of those problems. So anyways, I got the machine back online, and that was the biggest thing. Obviously they're using Server 2003, which is no longer maintained, so that's a whole nother issue. But anyways, so what I ended up having to do was I didn't have a stick of memory, so I ended up having to order it, and I got to go back out tomorrow and replace that. So that was one issue that I had this week. Other than that, everything worked out fine. Another problem I had was I had an HP Envy laptop, and basically when it would heat up after running for 10, 15, 20 minutes, just sitting there running programs or whatever, you would get all these colored lines across the screen. So I'm looking at it and I go, okay, yeah, it looks like a video card problem on the motherboard. Well, this particular machine has a Core i5 processor, and this particular Core i5 processor actually has the video chip on the processor chip. It's all in one. So I said, okay, no problem. Let me replace the processor, and that should fix the problem. Well, it didn't. So I ordered a processor, put it in, ran it. Everything was running fine. All of a sudden, it started doing the same thing. I'm like, great. I said, well, the only last thing it could be is, at this point, it's the motherboard. Something in the the processor moving from the processor to out through the outputs into the screen, you're having a problem. So
the bus itself may be shot.
What's that?
I said the data bus itself might be shot.
Yeah, exactly. So
on the motherboard.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where it's like it's really hard to tell what's going on, and I don't have a surefire way to go, yeah, it's this thing or that thing. I thought motherboard when I first started, but nah.
Do you have a motherboard tester, Jeff?
No, I don't.
Because I think you can test it. I think it's probably a higher end one. Might involve spending some dollars on it, some decent dollars on it. But I think you can. I think there's ones that will allow you to test the individual data channels across the board.
That would probably be good because that would save a lot of time and effort. But one of the things I came down to was, I was looking at it and I'm going, is it really worth it to pull these laptops apart and actually get paid what I get paid to work on them? I don't know, to be honest with you.
Hardware is going to be throwaway.
Yeah. Well, the problem. Okay, so here's the problem though. This is an $800 machine, and to go out and replace it again, it's $800, or for a couple $100 you can fix it. And it's kind of like.
In the case of somebody spending some dollars on the equipment, it's
yeah,
probably worth their time to invest some, a little bit more money and repair it. But these
yeah,
$200-300 laptops from Walmart,
Oh yeah.
Somebody's not going to pay another $200-300 to replace a motherboard on one of those,
Actually, that's not exactly true. It's about 50-50 for me.
Really?
Oh yeah. I can't explain it. Don't know why. People get attached to their devices. You're like, I don't care. Just fix it. Okay.
Customers have a nice wallet and a poor calculator.
It's not. You know what the thing is? It's not even always a nice wallet all the time. That's not even true. It's just that they're very used to it, and it's like, no. And the reality is, even when you go out and spend $300 on a laptop, we've talked about this on the show before, is that, yeah, $300 plus tax, plus this, plus that, and there's a lot of things that are more involved. And you're going to end up spending more than $300. But the other thing too, I think, is laptop motherboards are becoming a little bit cheaper if you can still find them. In this particular laptop, I actually found a motherboard, and it was $47, and I think this laptop is like 3 years old. So, not real old. Anytime you get to like the 5-year range on a laptop, then I really start to question and go, you know what? Yeah, we really need to replace this. 5 years is just way too old.
Yeah, a 3-year laptop though. I mean, you replace a motherboard in that, and you could probably get another 4 years out of it.
Exactly. Well, I don't know. At least a couple.
Well, okay. We also have to think about the type of clients that we deal with. If I have a residential client walking into this shop, they're going to want another 4 years out of it. And as long as that hard drive test's fine, I don't see why not.
Right.
Well, it depends. Exactly. Not too many people are running real processing intensive pieces of software for residential customers either. For the most part, they're surfing the net and getting their email and screwing around on Facebook. So
yeah. And so for the most part, a lot of that stuff will work just fine. So, anyways, that was the two things I worked on this week. So I ordered a motherboard for it, and we should have it in Thursday, and we'll get her put back together, and hopefully that solves the problem.
Hey Jeff, I didn't just to back up a little bit, the one that you were having the domain controller issue with.
Mm-hmm.
What I've seen a lot is where the cert chain in the trust sequence between the computer itself and the DC ends up getting broken. If you go into, I don't know, I'd have to see like any type of error code it's thrown or whatever, but just something to keep in mind when you get back into that machine. If you try to add it back to the domain, normally if you remove that PC off the domain, put it in a work group, reboot, throw it back in the domain, reboot again, you're usually good to go with any DC issues, any connectivity issues back to the DC.
Yeah, and that's exactly. See, I didn't have the username and password to get. I didn't have the administrator username and password to get in there to take the domain controller out and put it back in. But that's exactly how they were solving it, and so that's why the other IT company was going to come back and remote in, and basically they were going to do that since I'd already got it back up and running and connected to the internet. So yeah, that does fix the issue. The problem is that I don't understand why this is happening to different workstations all the time. I don't know if it's a DNS issue or what's going on, but something is not set up correctly.
Is it actually getting knocked off the domain controller consistently?
It's not. It just says it's basically saying that the security credentials are not matching up.
Is it a Windows 7 machine or Windows 8 machine?
Windows 7. Windows 7. Yep. Yeah, Windows 7. Yeah. So again, I don't know. I didn't look into the problem that much to see what was going on, but it's something they've been dealing with for a while.
Yeah, just curious. We see that a lot at work. Man, I do 100 of those a week at work where machines get knocked off the DC. Oh yeah, yeah. Usually it's when people are remote. Like if you have a remote worker and they connect to like a VPN, something just. In the connectivity process, when they connect up to the VPN tunnel, for some reason, something corrupts that cert chain, that chain of trust back to the DC, and it just knocks them off. Like I said, take them off, rehab them, usually good to go.
Yeah. Again, it's been a while since I've touched any of that stuff, so that's something I normally do on a regular basis. I was able to get back in Active Directory and figure out where to go and what to do. Not too much different than riding a bike, really, but
Nah, not at all.
But anyways, yeah, I was joking with John Dubinsky, and I said, yeah, you know what? I don't even know if I really want to deal with these businesses, to be honest with you. I said I might just go back to my residential customers. They're a fair bit easier. So, anyways. All right, so I think we have, let's see, we've got an email. So let's go ahead and go into that.
Yeah.
All right. This is from Audrey Jackson. All right. It says, 6 months ago, I moved out of my home, began renting a very small break-fix shop, and have just started trying managed services. I service residential, small business, and some of the local government agencies. I'm having the hardest time acquiring insurance for my computer repair shop. I heard Chris state once that EO, errors and omissions, insurance is not optional, that it is necessary. I also believe that I need general business liability plus insurance that will cover customer machines while in my possession. I think this is called Bailey's coverage. My first efforts yielded business insurance and Bailey's coverage. My latest efforts yielded business and insurance and errors and omissions. I absolutely cannot find anyone that will offer all three in my state, Alabama. I can't even get some insurance agents to return my calls. Do you guys have any suggestions? Am I thinking correctly about what is needed? Audrey. Thank you for the email, Audrey. And Chris, what do you have to say to the insurance quandary there?
Sure. Well, I mean, what I am going to say, and I want to make sure that this distinction is made, because yes, I'm going to say that it really you can't not have errors and omissions in our line of work, especially if you want to deal with businesses. And if I heard that right, there were some government contracts in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want the government coming after you for something without because government won't lose. Now that said, it doesn't mean that you need to have it to be in business, so I don't want those two things to be confused. You can run your business without it. It's just a very good possibility that you're going to wind up on a hook for a very large lawsuit that you can't afford. So let's make that distinction. If you can't find a single insurance agent, I'm not saying that you didn't look. I find it odd that there wouldn't be an insurance broker, and broker being different than an insurance company, that couldn't put something together for you so that you could have all of your insurances in one place. They might not necessarily get things through the same insurance company, but that doesn't make a difference to you because you're going through the broker. So that would be my first thing. Find an insurance broker that specializes in businesses, and they should be able to get you everything that you need under one roof. That would be my suggestion there. If that is something that absolutely cannot be done, it's going to be a bit more, but get your insurances where you can get them. Now, I didn't get. Is there an office involved here, Jeff? Does it say?
It looks like small break fix shop.
A small break fix shop. Okay. So I mean, really, what you're worried about is this place going to burn down? I mean, because it's a legitimate question. Now, the building that we're in, we have 1 out of 3 offices in this building, and for all I know, I could come into work tomorrow morning to find out that our neighbor put something in the garbage that made the garbage catch fire, and now the building's gone, right? And the only thing that I'm going to have left is everything that's in the fireproof safe, which isn't going to be a whole lot compared to everything else that's in here, including 3 customer computers that are sitting on the bench right now. So that's all going to come out of my pocket if I don't have insurance to cover that. And that has nothing to do with anything that I did. It has nothing to do with any action that I took. It's what happened. So you don't want to be without that. Errors and omissions, again, you're dealing with businesses, you're dealing with government. So if you screw up and do anything that makes the government lose data or makes them somehow lose some sort of a service, they can sue you for that downtime, right? So don't skimp out on the insurance, especially if you're going to be dealing with contracts like that, because it's not worth it if it comes back and bites you. Yeah.
Now, what is errors and omissions? I mean, what does that basically cover? It's just basically data loss for businesses.
Okay. If I'm going to break it down to the simplest way that I can put it, and everybody please keep in mind, I am not an insurance salesperson, nor do I have any formal training in insurance. So this isn't necessarily going to be 100% accurate in every place of the people that are listening. But for me, errors and omissions insurance is if I or one of my employees do something or say something that causes some sort of damage that can have a financial impact on the customer, or if we do not do something or say something that has a financial impact on the customer, then we have either omitted something or we've caused some sort of a problem that caused them money that they can sue us for. And so that's where the errors and omissions comes. That's a direct action or a direct inaction that caused that damage.
Gotcha. The other thing that I sent her email back and I said, check this out, is one of the things that I checked out when I first started my business was techinsurance.com. And they'll send you a quote, and they get a lot of that stuff in there, because what you'll end up finding out is this is the way it is in any industry, is that the insurance agents and stuff out there are not always good at everything. So they might not even understand what type of business that we run. And I don't know why that is, but it's from what, just talking to different insurance agents over the years, it's just what I see. they're like, hey, we got general liability, at $1 million or whatever, and here's what it's going to cost you. But you don't really know exactly if you're being covered properly. So techinsurance.com was a place that I went because it seemed like they knew more of what I was talking about, and they knew more of what we do in our industry, so they knew what to provide me. And again, being online, that's going to be able to cover pretty much any state.
Yeah, and putting this out there too, and that's a really good point, Jeff, that insurance agents don't make assumptions on anything, right? So when you are talking to an insurance broker or to an insurance agent at an insurance company, make sure you tell them exactly what you are. We are a computer repair business. We either do on-site or don't do on-site. We do things in shop, we don't do things in shop. We do remote, we don't do remote. We're out of our house, we're out of an office. They need all of that information. I went through 3 insurance brokers before I found one that could deal with IT companies.
Yeah, I believe that.
Because it's a high risk. It's a very high risk
right,
for the insurance company to insure somebody that does IT. You also need to make sure that you have precautions on your side to lower your risk. And you need to be able to prove those precautions, right? The remote support software that I use is it's a house call. Here's their website, and here's the type of encryption that they use, and blah, 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 blah. Here's what I use for my online backup. It's a company called Infoscale. The brand is SOS. Here's their website. Here's all the encryption that they use. Yes, they are HIPAA compliant. Yes, they are HIPAA. You have to go through each and every one of those things because every point of contact that you have with those customers opens you up to more risk. And that scares insurance companies. Insurance companies want to insure people that they don't need to pay.
Right. You got that right.
Right. So I'm very fortunate because I joined a BNI, and my insurance broker is actually in our BNI. And I mean, this is an insurance broker company that will insure the hole-in-one, $100,000 prizes, and catch the right fish and you get money, and if you can open this safe, you get the $50,000 that's in it. They insure that kind of thing. So they'll insure me. I'm easy. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, Chris, just one thing you had mentioned in there was backups. And the thing about insurances, too, is that they, laws and regulations and such, differ from state to state. But I know in particular in the state of Michigan, one thing you want to be careful of with insurance is if you're doing backups, typically E&O policies in the state of Michigan don't cover backups for IT. You actually need to carry like a separate rider for that.
And that will also depend on whether you're hosting the data yourself or if you're reselling. So perfect. Again, going back, right? We don't host any of the data ourselves. All of that goes through Infoscale. It's their servers. So my responsibility to the client, as far as E&O is concerned, is I have informed them that yes, we're setting up this software. Yes, we bought this space, but we're not hosting it. So I have to make sure that I am choosing a company that has encryption. I have to make sure that I am properly representing the backup that's happening. So if I'm dealing with a doctor's office, I have to make sure that I set it up for HIPAA compliancy, or PIPEDA if you're in Canada. That's where my responsibility ends and the responsibility of Infoscale begins. If anything happens to that data that is not my responsibility, I'm just supposed to make sure that the backups are happening. Right?
Correct. So
that's a conversation. Again, have that conversation with your insurance broker, because the laws where I am could vary very, very much from the laws where you are. But to my knowledge, I have not seen a single area within the United States or Canada that will hold you and your company responsible for data loss at a third-party center.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I don't understand. I mean, I know there's some people that still host their own backups, and there's no way that for my business that I want to do that. I'm going to use, a big name company like Carbonite, which I do because they're known, and nobody usually bats an eye when you mention their name, and so just to protect me and my business, that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a transference of risk, and that's what insurance is in the first place. An insurance policy is you transferring risk from your company to the insurance company, and you pay a premium for that. The better the insurance, the more comprehensive the insurance, the more it's going to cost. So roll that into your pricing. You have to.
Oh,
because
yeah.
you do not want to have 10 systems on the bench that are worth, let's say, $500 each, right? That's $5,000 in hardware. That doesn't include any data that they have on there. And I mean, I'm sorry, and I'm going to throw it. You Americans are crazy when it comes to your lawsuits. Like, really. Because it doesn't even matter how many times someone signed a paper that says, yes, all of my data is backed up. I guarantee you at least one of those 10 people are going to take you to court because grandma's pictures were on that computer, and I don't have any other pictures of grandma. So you have to protect yourself. And it's, you know, I've had people shake their head at me and tell me, well, no, you don't really need insurance. It's just it's a nicety. It's something that's nice to have. Well, you know what? Having a business is something that's nice to have. And if I get sued into bankruptcy, I'm not going to have that nice business anymore.
Right. Exactly.
It depends on, you know, too, I would caution maybe too against, you know, if you're like just starting out and you got, you know, your 3 cousins and your next door neighbor that you're doing some virus removal for or something like that. I went for quite a long time in break fix without insuring myself. I eventually did just because I got to a level of liability I wasn't comfortable with. But a lot of that too is kind of at the level you're operating at.
Yeah.
This particular business, this person that emailed you, I would definitely recommend it to them because it sounds like they have quite a bit going on and they could be on the hook for quite a lot if something happened.
Oh yeah, yeah. And your liability extends to the offices around you too. I mean, if you manage to burn down the building, you're liable for that entire thing.
Sure.
And the fire department will figure out.
Usually property insurance is separately from liability though.
Property, yes, but not content. You at that point would not be responsible for the building itself, but you'd be responsible for everything that was inside the building if the fire started in your unit, in most areas. So all of the computers, all the paperwork, all of the furniture, all of that stuff, like you're going to be writing a real big check if you don't have insurance to cover that.
You know where I caution people too if they're working out of their house is in terms of like your homeowner's insurance. If you're running a business out of your house, check with your insurance agent and make sure you're covered, because in some instances they will not cover business loss in your home.
No, my old insurance company, when I just had tenant insurance for content, they would have covered everything except for my desktop computer and the filing cabinet. And everything else would have been covered. So a lot of them will segment it. You just have to make sure that you have full disclosure. It's the same thing with your car insurance, right? If you get into an accident while you're driving to a client's place in your personal car and you don't have business insurance for your car insurance, chances are when they find out, and they will find out, that you were working when you had that accident, you're going to be buying yourself a new car and dealing with whatever other fines that you're going to wind up with over that.
Yeah, that's a big thing with Uber right now, Uber Transportation, because they're supposed to be quote-unquote a tech company, not a transportation company. A lot of those folks are running around with just personal insurance on them vehicles, and they're getting into accidents, and it's causing, from a legality standpoint, it's causing them some problems.
Oh, absolutely. That Uber is a whole separate fun conversation that we could have an entire show about at this point.
Sure. Kind of an analogy.
At that point, if I get in an accident and I've got a customer's computer in my vehicle, all I'm going to do is take the computer, I'm going to chuck it out in the road, I'm going to buy him a new computer, and, you know, I'll move on from there.
Sure.
Okay, so now that we have a recording and we've put it on air that Jeff Hallett from TechNut PC is planning insurance fraud, I'm sure that there's no way that they're ever going to find that.
That's not insurance fraud. I don't know what happened. It flew out of the car. I don't know. I don't know how it flew out of the car.
It's not the computer that's the problem. It's your intent during driving.
It's crazy.
It's your intent.
Well, you know, most of the time, I mean, you know, I mean, there's probably a lot of people now. Most of my business is done in my home. People come here. That's like 99% of my business. Every once in a while, I go out. I don't hardly ever carry anything back and forth except my body. So, you know, for me, it's my personal, you know, insurance covers my vehicle pretty much most of the time. So the only thing I would have to do is if something happened with that particular computer, in an accident, got damaged or whatever. If I didn't have insurance to cover that, which your automobile insurance is not going to cover it, I can tell you that. You're going to need to have, that insurance to cover those liabilities, because all I'm going to end up doing is replacing their, machine or whatever.
Now, Jeff, does your business, just out of curiosity, does your business insurance actually cover like people coming on your property if somebody gets hurt coming on your property to conduct business?
So I'm at the same point where I checked out insurance years ago, and for the amount of work that I do, because I do this part-time, I'm not doing it full-time, I actually still don't have insurance. Because I don't do enough business to make it worth my while, and quite honestly, if you want my business, you can have it. If you want all my debt, you can have it. I don't care.
Well, now where you got to be careful though, and I'm just going to bring this back to the car insurance again here, because I think this is super important to make another distinction. So you're talking about the insurance not covering the computer,
right?
But what I'm telling you is you need to talk to your insurance agent, because if you are driving your vehicle with the expectation of conducting business, so yeah, you're transporting a customer's computer back to them or to your house.
Right.
It's not just that they won't cover the computer. Unless your insurance policy is different from every other insurance policy that I've looked at for a residential policy, your entire car, your body, and any liability damage that you cause while driving that vehicle is not covered, because you are currently conducting business in a personal residential car that does not have a business waiver.
Yeah, I'll have to check into that, because I personally am not aware of such a thing, to be honest with you. Not here, anyways. As far as number one, I'm in a no-fault state, which is a whole different gambit of rules.
Yeah, our entire country is no fault. I know exactly where you're sitting.
Well, so here's the thing: no matter what happens, because of the no fault at this point, pretty much everything's covered.
But it's not.
Purposes.
But it's not.
I mean, anytime
because I know Michigan. But I've
never been in an accident where they've asked me, "Were you conducting business?" They don't even. They've never.
No, they won't. They won't ask you. But they have 5 years to find that out.
Jeff, you really should check too. If you have people coming on your property, you really should check if somebody gets hurt and they're there conducting business, if your homeowners would cover it.
No, in a general rule, no. So you have to get, the only thing you can get really for your home for business insurance is, in order to protect customers, is general liability, which is $1 million policy at whatever. That's the only thing. When I checked into it, a few years back, that's the only thing that I could get, and even then, because of the nature of the business, even that was sketchy to whether it would protect you 100%.
I would be more afraid of that than the getting into the car accident with the computer, because somebody breaks their leg on your property, that could have turned into a whole different ballgame than just losing a $500 PC on the road.
But again, and I know I keep on bringing this back in, but I gotta say it's not just that $500 PC. If you get into an accident with another vehicle, and you wind up causing damage to that other vehicle, right? In Canada, no fault means that you're not going to have 100% fault for anybody unless there wasn't somebody in the other car. So what will wind up happening there is, if I flew through a red light and T-boned somebody while I was working, I wind up being 90% at fault for that accident, which means that 90% of all damages, including medical expenses, are my responsibility. And if I don't have business insurance for my vehicle, that isn't covered because I was working. And now suddenly I wind up needing to personally figure out how I'm going to pay that bill off. It's not just a $500 computer, it's everything surrounding it.
Right, and to your point too about how litigious folks are in the U.S., Chris. Yeah, you're exactly right. Somebody comes on your property and they break their leg and it's a $1,500 ER bill. Lawyers are second to none at turning those $1,500 broken legs into a $150,000 liability.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it had to take time off work, and there's all the emotional damage. We don't have to deal with emotional damage in Canada. Nobody cares about your feelings.
Yeah. The lawyers don't really care about your feelings here, too. They just lie to you a lot and tell you they do.
Yeah. I don't care about... Well, I care about your feelings, because the more your feelings are hurt, the more money we're going to get.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to a lot of things too. Is that's one of the reasons I created an LLC. When I first started my business and actually started charging money for it, was to separate that liability from my business, in personal life, where those things are totally separated because of that division there. Again, there's a lot of gray areas. There is not specific black and whites when it comes down to a lot of that stuff. So, yeah, you definitely have to check your surrounding area, check your rules, check what you're doing.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, it's very specific. And like I said, the things that I read through for insurance, I'm telling you, they did not nail everything down that could happen in my personal business. They just didn't. Yeah. And there's so many. And so, in my opinion, a lot of times, if you're paying for that stuff, you've got to make sure that it's going to cover everything. But even from their standpoint, I don't know that they want it to cover everything. They're like, yeah, this is going to give. Again, what I kept hearing a lot of times from insurance agents was general liability, which is a whole big gray area of we may cover it, we may not. I don't know.
I'll tell you another point too, where insurance is concerned. If you're looking at a large, if you're looking at a court case, let's just say for the sake of argument,
sure,
just litigating that can get hugely expensive with attorney's fees.
Yep.
So where insurance is worth its weight in gold too is the insurance company isn't really protecting you, right? They're protecting their bank account. They're protecting their end of the liability. So kind of one nice thing for insurance is you're not just buying protection against liability, you're kind of buying protection against litigation too, because they're going to go litigate that case for you on your behalf.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That is true.
That's worth its weight in gold, because lawyer bills, attorney's fees can get very expensive very quickly, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. So yeah, I guess that's it's one of the things that definitely need to check into. And I think Chris's advice is probably the best so far. Is find an insurance broker and let them find the things you need. You can go check out a couple websites online. Like I'll put a link for techinsurance.com, which when they gave me everything back that I needed, it was still a pretty hefty bill. Because my concern is a lot of people will get because I've heard people in the last few years say, no, it's not that expensive. And what I'm thinking is, that's fine. It's not that expensive, but are you really? What are you covered for?
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that anybody that's spending only a couple $100s a month in insurance, I don't know that you're covered for all that much, to be honest with you. And I think if you really got down to the nitty gritty and it came down to a case in court, you might be very, very surprised.
Yeah.
So you're probably going to be in the like I said the last time I checked, you're probably going to be in the $500 a month range in order to protect everything that you need to protect for your particular business.
I'll agree with that. $500 a month is probably a good pricing if you're looking at around $1 million worth of liability.
Yeah.
For each instance, and that's the other part that you need to watch out for. I haven't heard too many times of them setting it up so that it's an annual thing, but you want to make sure that it's per instance, because you don't want to have again, let's go to the fire thing. If your place burns down and it's your fault, you don't want to only have $1 million worth of liability for that entire thing. You want to have $1 million per instance, per suit. Otherwise, you're going to wind up running out of coverage real quick.
And I will say, for a lot of people, because a lot of people that watch this show are, they're single technicians. They might do this part-time. They don't, this might not be their full-time gig or whatever. You really got to watch a lot of that stuff too, because most of us are not going to be able to afford for what we do $500 a month. So it's like, again, weigh your options, see what's available out there, see what can protect you as best as possible, and then you kind of. in my opinion, when it comes to court cases, you're rolling the dice 100% of the time. It's never cut and dry like they tell you. It's not.
Yeah.
So if you've got a good enough lawyer that can argue the opposite, and the judge is going to, believe that, what are you going to do? So
I'm going to address that, and Mason actually brought it up as well, that $500 is a lot of, I'm going to read this here. $500 is a lot of money to spend on insurance if you're a part-time or a full-time one-man band. And Mason, I'm going to agree with you on word for word what you just said, that yes, $500 is a lot if you're part-time or a one-man band, but I'm also going to say that if $500 a month is a lot for you, that's because you're not at the level yet where you have probably a shop, or looking at possibly hiring employees soon, or having enough systems in place where that money is going to be needed. So
right.
if you are a part-time or a one-man band that's still working out of your home, or you're just going on site, or then you don't really need that type of liability, and your insurance rates are going to reflect that. So if the only thing that you really need is, okay, I need general insurance in case I get hurt or something happens, but really what I need is errors and omission because I'm doing on-site or remote service, and I need to make sure that if they sue me for something that I said, did not do, or did not say that cost them money, that I am covered. And what you're going to find is that the E&O insurance on its own is not going to come to $500 a month. It's going to be a lot less.
No,
So
the last quote I got from a broker for E&O and general liability was $700 for the year.
Yes, E&O and general liability.
And that's $700 for the year. It's cheap.
Okay.
Oh, for the year? Oh, gee, how much coverage did you get on that?
I don't remember. It's been a while since I talked to him. I don't remember what the exact coverage parameters were, but it covered up to $1 million in liability. Usually, for the most part, insurers in Michigan won't write a liability policy to a business for less than $1 million.
Yeah. That's the only thing. That is minimum.
I don't remember all. It's been a while since I got that quote, so I don't remember what all went into the E&O quote, but it was $700 for the year.
Yeah, see, and that's an amazing pricing. Now, now were you doing that working out of your home, or is that something with
correct. It was correct. Just working part-time out of the house, correct.
Okay, see, so all of those factors come in, right? So,
Sure.
So Mason, to answer your question there, so a part-time tech working out of his home with $1 million, because $1 million is minimum in Michigan, $1 million for liability and E&O was $700 a year.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
And if you're paying monthly, it's going to be a little bit more because they're going to tack a premium on there for taking monthly payments. But $700 a year is not that much money if you wind up with any lawsuits. Like one person out of that entire year turning around and saying that you lost this and it cost me this much money, you've already made, it's not worth not spending the money.
Now, Chris.
$700 a year, that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Now I was going to say it's $700 a year. So Chris. So now would that cover somebody that's doing? I mean, that's going to cover general liability. See, here's a problem I have with general liability. It doesn't really state exactly what it's covering. So now would that cover things like you traveling back and forth in your vehicle?
No. You can't take general liability insurance and apply it to driving because automobile insurance and any other insurance is separate.
Right.
General liability means you break somebody something. Say you work in a corporate environment. Say you support like a medium-sized business. They've got, $10,000 worth of on-prem server, infrastructure, network infrastructure. And you go in there and they have a network outage. You go in there and start working on their network, and you misconfigure something. You take out half their network, cost them $6,000. That's liability.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that, but so on top of this $700 a month, now you're also talking about you've got to cover your personal vehicle, which I've never. Jay, have you? I mean, you live in Michigan too. Have you ever looked into that to see what type of coverage you could actually get?
You have to have, like Chris was saying, you have to. I don't know if they call it a rider here, but you do have to have your vehicle insured. Because that was kind of like the whole Uber point that I was making.
Yeah.
you do have to have, if you're conducting business in a vehicle and all you have is personal insurance, automobile coverage on that vehicle, and you are conducting business, then they will probably not likely cover it, like Chris was saying, any of it. You typically have to have a business policy for your automobile if you're using that in the course of business. Excuse me, sorry, voice went out for a second there. Yeah. So anyway, so pretty much if you're conducting any kind of business, I don't know how much. I don't know in terms of the equipment. I don't know if you could write that off like under your liability insurance, but like as far as any liability that you would have in regards to, like he said, hitting somebody else, causing damage to their vehicle, to their person, chances are good your personal liability insurance is not going to cover that in an automobile. And the same thing with your homeowners.
Yeah.
I've actually spoke to that very point with my insurance broker before, and they pretty much told me if somebody comes on my property and breaks their leg picking up their computer, it's not going to cover it. You know, my personal coverage is not going to cover against that.
Right. No, and that's
that's
understandable. Yeah.
For that.
Right.
Yeah, and it all comes down to the intent of the action that you're taking at the time that the incident occurred. If you're driving your kids to school, that's personal use. Your personal insurance is going to cover anything that happens. If you are on your way to pick up a computer, you've already got the computer and you're bringing it back, you're using your vehicle for business purposes, and it is now no longer covered under your personal insurance. Now, you're not getting, like, I'm thinking that there might be a miscommunication here. You are not getting business insurance for your car and personal insurance for your car. That's not how that works. Your car needs to be insured. So you would insure your car under the business insurance, and that's it. And now you have coverage for business and personal use of the car.
I would go so far as, depending on how much, now if you're a break fix guy and you're only, this is a little bit of overkill if you're only going on the road periodically, but if you're like a guy that's doing this full time, or gal, and you're out there on the road constantly doing on-site work, I personally would put my car under my LLC, and I would insure that as part of my LLC and get that totally outside of my personal name.
Yep. Yeah, and then depending on how taxes work there, and I'm not going to pretend to be a tax accountant for the U.S., but here in Canada, there is a if your business pays for your car and the insurance is under the business, then it's a write-off. All of that is a write-off. The lease is a write-off, the gas is a write-off, and the insurance is a write-off. And then I, as the business owner, receive a taxable benefit of personal use of a company vehicle, which is just tied into my personal income when they figure out how much everything costs, and they do a percentage. So it actually winds up helping you quite a bit on your taxes if you do it that way as well. But moving even beyond that, if you want to get a wrap on your car, if you want to advertise on your car, if you want to do anything like that, and car advertisement is huge. If you put car advertisement on your car and you are driving that vehicle, the insurance company stops caring what you were doing when you were driving that car. The very fact that the advertisement is on the car in the first place will make most insurance companies default that car use to business use 24/7. Which means that you are never covered no matter what you do if you have advertisement on your vehicle.
Now, would that have to be advertisement for your business? Because I know one of the things that's big here in Michigan is car wraps for advertising for other businesses.
You're making an income from your vehicle in any way, shape, or form. So that advertisement, if somebody is paying you to put advertisement on your car, you need business insurance because you're making money off of it. Done. There, like that is I've watched it. I've watched it happen so many times. Where people
same concept as the Uber thing.
Yeah, exactly. Right. All of those Uber drivers that are driving around are not insured unless they have business insurance.
Unless they're smart and they go and get the correct insurance.
Right. And but nope, not going to do it. But with by the way, for those of you, I'm gonna play the age card again. For those of you who are around my age, and don't, Jeff.
I'm not saying nothing.
Having your insurance under your business can actually lower your insurance premiums.
Yeah, apparently you haven't ever lived in Michigan, but okay.
No, really. My personal insurance, when I compared my personal insurance to the business insurance for the exact same coverage, the only difference is that I could do business while I was in the car.
Yeah.
My insurance premiums went down.
Do you have your car listed under is it an entity of your or a asset of your LLC or your business entity? I don't know if you guys have LLCs in Canada.
We do have limited liability companies. So no, the car is actually leased under my own name. I leased the car before I was incorporated.
I got you.
So mine's
maybe you enjoyed some discounts because of the added protection that the insurance company gets by you being covered under an LLC or not.
No, it didn't affect any of that at all. But what ends up happening is I have it insured under the business because I do some on site and because I'll go pick up like one of my employees here. He lives in the same building as I do, so I drive him home. But if I get into an accident while I'm driving my employee home, it's considered business use. Right, so it's stupid little things like that. They're going to try to get out of paying you.
Oh, for sure.
Right. Yeah. So what it'll come down to is this: if you at any point do anything in your vehicle that has anything to do with your business, or if you want to advertise on your vehicle, and you're not going to do on sites or anything like that, but you want people to see your name and number while you're driving, make the phone call and find out. Because if you need to switch your insurance into business insurance and your current insurance company can't accommodate that for you and you need to switch insurance companies, that's an out clause. Depending on your state, that is that you will be able to get out of your contract for that because they cannot provide you the level of insurance that you require. And the insurance company that you're switching to want your business. And if you aren't driving like an idiot, and you don't have a bunch of speeding tickets and a bunch of accidents and all of these things that show that you're a bad driver, you'll probably get a lower rate. And the phone call's free.
Like I said, unless you live in Michigan.
Unless you live in Michigan.
The problem is we're kind of a non-competitive state where insurances are concerned. Yeah. So you have to be as an insurer, and I'm not a, like Chris was saying, I'm a long ways off from being an insurance provider, but like I explained to you before, Jeff, I owned a trucking company once upon a time in my life, and I can sit and talk to you for hours and days about liability insurance and transportation.
Right.
Yeah.
The problem with Michigan is that you have to be licensed. Well, it's like that in any state, really. In the United States, you have to be licensed to sell insurance in that state or a given territory of the state. So there's no competition. So they can say, once we have X amount of providers for that territory, we're closing out that territory to any additional licenses. So pricing becomes really not, if you look around from insurer to insurer in the state of Michigan, you might find $1 or $2 difference, but largely they're going to be mostly the same.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just like your cable provider, same concept.
Well, they're also
licensed. Go ahead.
They're also looking at level of risk, though. Right.
So that goes into it too, for sure.
A personal vehicle covered under personal insurance, you have a higher risk statistically. You have a higher risk of drunk driving. You have a higher risk of speeding. You have a higher risk of accidents. Right? It's your personal vehicle. A company vehicle, in general, which is being provided to an employee or an owner or somebody who requires that vehicle for use during their employment, during their business time, is less likely to drink, speed, go through red lights. Because they are going to be way more careful with your boss's car than you're ever going to be with your own.
Yep.
The level of risk goes down. So, someone in my age range, like I'm 27, right? I am in that age range where the insurance companies say, this guy's an idiot.
You said it.
I did. Every insurance company ever is going to look at me and see this young male. Now, mind you, I have a family and kids, so that does bring it down a lot. But I am a 27-year-old male. I am in the highest risk category that exists in insurance, and the only thing that's saving me from going bankrupt to drive a car is because I have kids.
They're going to bankrupt you on other ends, but at least you save some money there.
They'll figure it out. And you know what? The day that they figure it out, I'll come on this show and I'll tell everybody how wrong I was about insurance. But I don't think that day's ever going to happen.
The threshold in Michigan tends to be 25. Usually after 20, I'm 40, so after I think like 25, I think my insurance started. Prior to from like 18 to 25, I worked just to pay for insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It does start to go
Other
down.
Factors. Another factor here in Michigan too is the distance driven. Like anytime I fill out an application for insurance, they ask you how far you're driving that car on an average daily basis. So
right.
Yep. That's the same here because it's a higher risk. If you have to commute more, then they're going to associate a higher risk with that. Absolutely.
Well, and even worse than that, I mean, one of the things that they look at too is also your credit report, and they base off the statistics of whether or not I guess they feel that people with bad credit are more likely to get in an accident.
Two other factors in Michigan that make, and this is what when you keep saying, Jeff, that the cost of insurance in Michigan, there's two other things here that have a high factor. One is we're required in the state of Michigan for automobile insurance to have to insure against uninsured motorists.
Correct.
Yep. The other thing is the Michigan catastrophic pool. We all have to pay into that pool so if somebody goes out and has an accident, I think $1 million is the threshold for what an insurance company is liable for. Anything over that million, that person gets put into the catastrophic events pool, and then they are covered basically for life for medical costs related to that accident.
Okay.
So I don't know if you guys have anything like that in Canada, Chris.
Yeah, we do. And we're also required to insure against uninsured drivers. And because I have a lease, I also have to basically insure my car against anything and everything that could possibly happen to it, which is paid off, actually, because my car was stolen once. And because I have the insurance that I do, loss of use insurance was part of my insurance plan, and they rented me a car until the police recovered my vehicle and it was repaired.
Oh, that was nice. And that was part of the business plan?
That was absolutely part of it. It was loss of use because loss of use of a business vehicle constitutes a loss of income on my part.
Correct.
And therefore it's covered by the car insurance plan. Just another piece of food for thought.
Yeah, so what I would encourage people to do is whatever state and area you're in is, number one, go ahead and ask the questions of your insurance agent. Call your automobile insurance agent and, just check, just say, hey, what, do I, in this state where I'm at, do I need business insurance on my vehicle? And, what's the cost for that? Is it more? Is it less? Kind of figure out the cost, depending on how often you're using your vehicle and different things, of whether that's going to be worth it to you or not. And then the other thing too is also check out a couple different insurance brokers or agents and find out what general liability along with any errors and omissions is going to cost you on there, and just kind of read through and what they actually cover, and then kind of make a decision based on that, depending again on your size of business, how much revenue you're pulling in. And just see whether it's going to work out for you or not, or obtain a goal that's going to get you to that point where you're making enough money to and you're doing enough work where it's actually going to pay off to actually have some of these things to protect yourself and your business moving forward. So I think we'll end it off with that. Check with your local state and area, and that pretty much, that one email took up pretty much the whole show.
Well, it's a big topic, and I'm glad it was brought up because it's something that a lot of people ignore, and it really shouldn't be. Yeah.
Well, they ignore because, again, it's an added cost that a lot of people, that are starting out don't have the ability to pay for, and it's like, why would I unless I understand the risks and different things involved. So
I think you got people on two sides of the same coin on insurance. you got some people that don't insure at all, and then something happens, and their first thought was, well, geez, I thought at most it might cost me $500 to replace somebody's computer, and then they find out they did something that cost them $3,000 or $4,000. And then you got people on the other side of that coin that go out and insure against everything they could ever possibly insure against, and they're paying out all this money for something that they're never going to probably ever use. So you really, like you said, you really need to sit and talk with an insurance agent, with an insurance rep, and really figure out what you need and make sure you're getting the coverage that you really need and not paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars a year or $1,000 a year for coverage that you actually really will probably never need.
Well, and that's the problem with that though is you've got to wade through all the lawyer speak in order to understand what it does cover and what it does not. It's no different than the tax law. There's nobody since the beginning of time that's ever read through the entire tax law of the United States of America. They've tried and failed.
Surely not the people that voted for it in Congress.
Let's not.
Yeah. So,
but
you have to have a basic understanding of what it's going to cover and what it's not. And what I'm going to say is that probably 9 times out of 10, you are not going to think of everything. And unless somebody is doing this specific for this industry, the general rule is most of these people are not going to know exactly what to give you in order to protect your particular type of business. So you really got to find somebody that's specific to
it's like
your industry.
Good insurance broker or good insurance agent and a good CPA are kind of two people of the same feather,
Yeah.
Make sure you have a good CPA to protect you on the tax end, and make sure you have a good insurance agent to protect you on that end.
Yeah, and I will say though that if you go to an insurance broker that's dealt with computer companies before, an insurance broker is not married to any one insurance company.
Right.
Right. So they aren't going to I won't go to an insurance agent at an insurance company because they're going to make me fit in a box. I want an insurance broker that's going to find a box that I fit in.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So that, yeah.
There's a term for it. It escapes me off the top of my head. They're called a committed agent or something like that sells for, say, Allstate. Those guys are only never going to sell you. They can only buy, the rules of their own.
Right.
Of their own company. Yeah. They can only sell you Allstate, so they're going to have to come up with a product that only they offer.
Yep. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, I think we've went long enough on this subject, and I think we're going to go ahead and end off the show. So, Jay, if you want to let people know where they can find out more about what you're up to, or get in contact with you to ask you any questions or anything like that, where would that be?
Just email me right now, jparker at jparker930@outlook.com. They can call me at 734-845-1299. Or just stay tuned. I have a feeling, Jeff, you and I will probably be doing more together over the months and years to come, so there will be definitely some more coming down the pipeline soon.
Very cool. All right, we appreciate you coming out. And Chris, if people want to find out more about what you're doing, where can they do that?
Well, Jeff, they can either give us a call. They can call us at 866-568-2813. They can go on our website at www.rstechteam.com, or you can email us at info@rstechteam.com. And one other small plug here for you guys. We just started using Slack, the internal messenger service, to coordinate some projects with some of our clients, and it's actually been working out very well for us. Slack has provided me with some $100 coupons to give out. So if anybody wants a coupon, just email us, info@rstechteam.com, and we'll send you a link.
Awesome. Sounds good. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys coming out and sharing with us today. And, come join us live for the Computer Repair Podcast every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern over at podnutz.com/live. We would love if you guys would join in on the conversation by hanging out in the chat room or calling in live. We have audio available over at podnutz.com, or subscribe using your favorite podcatcher. You guys can subscribe to the video over on YouTube at Live Show for Computer Repair Techs. You guys can email questions and feedback for this show to podnutz@podnutz.com, or you can leave a voicemail at 1-888-697-0162. I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast. Are you still dancing? Seriously? Oh.
That was fun, guys.
Yeah, that was good subject there. Hopefully we didn't confuse a bunch of people, but hey.
Oh, I'm 100% sure that I confused everybody out there. That was my goal the whole time, really.
No, I mean it's good advice that everybody, every once in a while you need to go in and talk to your agent and kind of check these things out.
Yeah.
To see what the costs, cost benefits, and make sure that you can get everything covered from there. So.
Oh, for sure. And it's such a rough topic too, because every time anybody thinks about insurance, they're like, "Oh, insurance, I'm paying to fail," or "Oh, I don't really need insurance." You know what? Honestly, I've only ever met like 3 people in my entire life where I can say, you know what, you don't need insurance because you honestly have enough money in the bank to pay out. But you don't come across that very often. I certainly don't have that kind of cash laying around.
Right. No, so, exactly.
Yeah. But no, definitely a good topic. I'm glad that we got Mason was joining us in there on the chat there too. Throwing some comments and questions out there. So I love the feedback. It tells me that people are listening.
Yeah, I'm reading through all the things right now.
Yeah. Very
cool. Well, I guess, I've got some other things I've got to take care of today, so I think we're going to cut a slight bit short, a little bit quicker than what we've normally done. I'm going to go ahead and stop the broadcast, but we will see you guys next Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great week.
Bye.